Okay, let's just think peaceful thoughts, quiet, calm thoughts.
You're pathetic.
Pathetic.
Weak.
You're my greatest failure. You're nothing at all.
Why are you so unhappy?
I can't quiet my mind.
We're about to ascend.
Okay, so that's not exactly how it happened. Now, I've always been fascinated with the idea of meditation, right? Ever since I was a kid. And I think that's partly due to the media that I grew up on consuming. And very often it would feature elements of meditation, or at least philosophies that would align with meditation. Whether this was in superhero movies and series, the animation that I'd watch, Bruce Lee, and just martial arts movies in general, and even Star Wars to an extent would feature kind of these Taoist principles that would emphasize the need on looking inwards in order to find one's strength as opposed to outwards. And in the world of Star Wars, of course, they're learning to navigate the Force by doing so.
Its energy surrounds us and binds us. Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter.
There was always this trend in Hollywood for quite a long period of kind of East meets West philosophies, right? And in order for you to achieve your optimal potential, you would have to find this kind of stillness that you'd never found before and look inwards for the answers. Now, I always had it in my head that in order to meditate, you had to be quiet, right? There had to be total silence in your head. And I'm sure, like many of you, I tried that and I just couldn't do it. I tried to find this quiet that I thought that I had to find, but it's almost like I had this voice in my head that would just not shut up.
Coward. We have a new world to conquer.
Leave me alone, please.
Hiding in the shadows.
So it was around the COVID lockdown era that I decided to revisit meditation and really give it a proper go. Now, during this era, I had just gone through a breakup, so I was feeling pretty low about myself. I think the world in general was just pretty down because times were really bleak back then.
Moment of national emergency.
And to be honest, I was probably just really bored. I was stuck in my house, I had nothing else to do. So I finally had the motivation to be like, you know what? Let's give meditation a go. What have I got to lose? So it was around this period that I actually discovered a book by Wim Hof in which he described breathwork practice as a meditative form, which was part of his Wim Hof protocol. This was it. This was the foot in the door for me with meditation, because having that guided breathwork gave me something to focus on and something to distract my mind whilst I unknowingly fell into a meditative state. During these first few months in particular of practicing breathwork for the first time, I was genuinely starting to achieve this like sort of high. Since then, I have read many other books on the benefits and practice of breathwork. I've obviously also stumbled down many YouTube rabbit holes covering this topic over the course of the last few years. On a little side note, during my research, I ended up finding a guy called Rickson Gracie. Now, I didn't know who Rickson Gracie was at the time of me discovering it, right? I have since read his book called Breathe, which I highly recommend. Obviously, it has elements of breathwork throughout, hence the title of the book. But Rickson Gracie, for those of you that don't know, is a martial arts legend, right? A Brazilian jiu-jitsu legend. Now, what's cool about Rickson is to this day, he still practices breathwork. And whilst he does use it as a meditative process, he also attributes it to a lot of his success during his performance in fighting. And think of it, it's kind of common sense, isn't it? If you can understand and control your breath and manage your breath, obviously you're going to have better influence over your endurance and stamina during performance. I don't want to touch on that too much, but I will vouch for it given that I do train and compete in judo myself. I also train a little bit in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and honestly guys, regular breath work definitely has a positive impact on my breathing during performance. Importantly, during this breathwork internet journey, I ended up discovering several YouTube channels, one of them being Breathe with Sandy. And just to clarify, by the way, I have no affiliation with this guy. I don't know him, I've never spoken to him. However, I do really appreciate his videos. When I first discovered these guided YouTube breathwork videos, I had no idea at the time that they would end up becoming a weekly staple for me for the rest of my life up until now. The convenience of having these free, short, guided breathwork meditations has honestly been such a godsend. I don't just use the one channel, I do frequent multiple channels. And the great thing about this is I get to utilize different kind of teaching styles, different breathwork patterns, different breathwork lengths. Ultimately, it's introduced me to so many different styles of breathwork that I would never have otherwise discovered unless I somehow stumbled upon many books that kind of detailed them. So thank you, modern day technology. I did predominantly breathwork style meditation, right, for I'd say probably 2 years before I could finally meditate without breathwork. I don't believe it has to be this length of time for everyone. I'm sure some of you watching this could do it far quicker than I could. I'll be completely honest, I was just so comfortable doing breathwork meditation because I'd never been able to do any form of meditation before that I just probably didn't push myself to try different styles. And you know, why would I? Why would I not just chuck on a 10-minute video, follow what they say, have that 10 minutes of my day be almost completely internally focused and have nothing external going on? Why would you not do that? It's something that breaks up the day nicely. However, I then started reading on different philosophies, you know, different kind of religions, I guess, different ways of thinking. I read books on Taoism, Buddhism, and particularly in these Eastern religions or lifestyles or philosophies, what I noticed was that there was always some form of an emphasis on meditation. There was an emphasis on looking inward as opposed to outward for the answers. This was great because, again, I was discovering other styles of meditation. And it was around this period that I had kids, right? And I know this sounds funny, but for those of you that have kids, you will know that suddenly your house is never quiet. Now, I work a very sociable job. I'm constantly interacting with people. I'm constantly talking to people. And I didn't realize until I had kids that I do have a social battery. And when I would get home, I would just start becoming overstimulated because there is constant sound, constant noise going on in my life. I think it was this point that pushed me to really appreciate silence. And this is probably what pushed me into trying to learn more about meditation without requiring an external guide, without requiring someone to tell me what to do, or even a breath to focus on. I can safely say now I have finally achieved what I always wanted to achieve. However, it is not as black and white as I once thought. Meditation isn't necessarily about quiet or thinking nothing. It's not about that. In fact, you can often achieve this via thinking. However, sometimes you don't have to achieve it. Sometimes meditation is about thinking about stuff. I like to view meditation, right, as several different things. Number one, it could be a break from the external world where you're actually taking a break internally. Number two, it could be a great tool for when there's something very stressful going on in your life, right? How often do you sit down and have a conversation with yourself? You don't. You probably have these thoughts in between conversing with other people or events throughout your day, but you never actually sit there and take the time to marinate in your problems or your thoughts and feelings and think of a solution, or think about how they affect you, or think about how would you do it differently, or importantly, think about what can you control and what can you not control. Me personally, right, meditation has been such a great tool to guide myself throughout my own life and help myself navigate my own problems. I do believe meditation is something that should be taught in schools. I think the only downside is that, especially in the West, we simply don't know enough about meditation to actually teach it to others. Meditation has been such an internal journey for myself that I don't even feel in any way qualified to tell you guys how to do it. I'm just giving you my experience over the last 5 years, how it's benefited me and what I did. Your journey could be totally different to mine. Now, importantly, I think it's a great tool for mental health, right? We live in a world today where a lot of people are struggling, right? And rightfully so. The world is a tough place right now. Doing something daily or at least several times a week to look after yourself, to talk to yourself, to check in with yourself, to have a little bit of downtime from the external world does wonders for mental health. And I think that we need to place more emphasis on it as a society for people to be practicing some form of meditation. Damn, we got a little bit deep with this one, didn't we? Now, if you guys have any experience with meditation or perhaps you'd like to know more, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys. Like I said in the last video, I am really appreciating the support that I've been getting on this channel recently. It's really motivating me to create these videos. It's quite difficult for me to make them given I am a full-time business owner, I'm a parent, but I hope videos like these especially can not only entertain people, but help them. This is the channel where fitness meets fiction. You've probably gathered throughout this video that I am a massive nerd. So if you'd like more content like this, please subscribe to the channel, join me for more videos in the future, and drop a like